voluntary. So the elements, they can be monoatomic, like the inert gases, or like liquid, like mercury. And we have the diatomic. Diatomic also, we have some of them active gases, and some of them also liquid. Liquid only also one example. What was it? Bromine. Bromine. The bromine is a diatomic element. And the active gases like what? Like oxygen, like nitrogen. تمام. Like what else? Hydrogen. Like chlorine. Chlorine. Look at the names because I'm going to ask about them. They are very important because today we are going to learn how can we write their symbols. How can we write this element instead of writing all of this word? I'm going to write just to write the symbol. And we have to know all of the symbols of the elements like we know our names.
Teacher, I know it all. I know the names of it all.
What, Ammar?
I know the simplest form of them.
Really? That's amazing.
Yes.
Okay, we'll take it today.
I said it yesterday.
Oh, by yourself?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll see today. So again, Ammar, can you tell us now what do you know about elements? They are similar or different atoms?
Elements similar atoms. But the compound is different atoms that make molecule, just like the hydrogen chloride molecule.
Excellent. Yes, like hydrogen chloride. Now, what else? Hydrogen chloride. What else? Water. What is
water?
Yeah. Water. How can I write water? It's H2.
H2O.
H2O2 hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. And the ammonia. Who remember the symbol for ammonia?
Three hydrogen and one chloride.
Excellent.
And one nitrogen.
Yes, an HC. So 3 hydrogen and 1 nitrogen. Excellent. Thank you. So we have a compound. They are forming from more than 2 different atoms. Like we have hydrogen chloride, HCl, we have water, H2O, and we have ammonia, that is NH3. Okay, and we know that the properties of the molecules are different from each other, okay, because of the number of atoms. It's different from one to the other, because the kind of the atoms, is it monoatomic, diatomic, is it a compound? Okay, it will form a compound if they are different. And the way of combination between the atoms, this one we'll take it later, inshallah. So that's all about element and compound. Okay, today, inshallah, we're going to start speaking about the atomic structure of matter, and we're going to see the atom itself. How can we write it and how can we define it? What is atom? What does it mean, the word atom? Anyone knows? Anyone knows what is the atom? Yes, Tuqa.
Yes, miss.
Teacher can say.
What is atom?
It's the building unit of the molecules.
Building unit of what? Of matter, you mean? يعني of molecules. Okay, very good. Or we can say that it is the and it is the fundamental building unit of matter. It is the fundamental building unit of matter. because it is the basic, it is the smallest thing, right? If you are playing with some cubes and you made like a building with these cubes, you will say that the one cube of it that you started with is the building unit of your house, right? It is the same. The atom is the smallest of all. That's why it is the fundamental building unit of matter. Okay? And or we can say it is the smallest individual unit of matter that can share in the chemical reactions. Okay, because the chemical reactions that happens when we make experiments and we see the chemical reactions, all of this because of the interaction between the atoms together. Okay, Lamis and Toka Ahmed, you can hear me clearly? Yes, Alhamdulillah. So we said that the chemists or the scientists use symbols to express elements easily. Okay, so the symbol of any element is represented by its atom. Like for example, I'm going to write H, just the H. So I'm going, and now I'm speaking about hydrogen atom. This is one atom of hydrogen. Okay, so the symbol of any element is represented by its atom. What is the atom? It is the fundamental building unit of matter, or it is the smallest individual unit of matter which can share in the chemical reaction. Okay, here, any problem here? Because we are going to start speaking about the chemical symbols of the elements. These elements will be studied and you will be able to write any symbol from them. They are like 20, I think, 20 or 25 elements. So you can study them through the week, okay? We have like, how can we write each one of them? But let's take the basics first. How can we write them? Because some of them we can write them without even studying, but some of them we have to study them, okay? You. Okay. Okay, so we have, let's have first a look on the table. Hydrogen, it's H. So I started with the first letter. Then I have helium. Helium, I can't write it H because I have already hydrogen is H. So it's the starting two letters as well. Okay. We have helium is H. I have, sorry, hydrogen. Helium is He. Lithium, look here, the first two letters is Li. Beryllium, first two letters, Be. Boron, B. Carbon, C. Nitrogen, N. Oxygen, O. Fluorine, F. Neon, Ne. Until now, we all of them, the starting two letters, okay? But here, for example, sodium. Sodium is not S, huh? Sodium is not S. Sodium in the Latin language is called natrium. Natrium. That's why we are writing it Na. Natrium, Na. Okay. We have magnesium. Magnesium, okay, it's Mg. Just they removed the A and we have its Mg. Aluminium, Al, the first two letters. Silicon, Si. Phosphorus, P. Sulfur, S. Okay, chlorine, Cl, argon, Ar. Here, potassium, the second one, that is not like the other rule. Potassium here also is called in Latin word kalium. Kalium. That's why it's K. Kalium, so it's K. Okay, we have calcium, Ca. We have something else here. It's not written. Iron. How can I write iron? Iron also in
I
the
can say
Say, Ammar. How can I write iron?
Fe.
Excellent. So we are writing iron Fe because it's in Latin word, it's therium. Okay, so it is Fe. Write it here. So the iron is Fe. the first letter it's written capital, the second one small. First letter capital, second one small. I can't write them both capital, only the first one. So Fe, this one is for iron. Copper, do you know copper?
Yes, I know. It's
Yes.
Cu.
U. C capital, U small. C capital, U small. This one for copper. Silver. Silver in Latin word is argentum. Argentum. Argentum is the silver in Latin word. So it's written A,
Yes.
G. A capital, G small. This is for silver. Yes. So this table that we have in our book, we are going to study it very well. Okay, just with time, you will find them easy for you. Because most of them, like we can see, they have a rule. I'm writing the first letter only, or I'm writing the first two letters, the first letter capital and the second one small. Anyone want to ask any question here? Okay, how about to make a small memory game? Small memory game. I'm just going to hide a symbol here in this table. Okay, the first line, so it will not be hard for you. And you will tell me what was the symbol that I am hiding. Deal? Okay.
Okay, it's for me.
So, but you have to close your eyes until I do it.
Okay.
Okay, how about now? We have one element that we need its symbol.
I can say.
Anyone else? Okay, and Lamis and Tuka Ahmed. Do you remember what was the symbol here? With the same law that we said, the first two letters.
Teacher, I can say.
So I think L-I.
L-I, very good. L capital, I small, very good. Okay, and okay, Ammar, how about this one?
It's
The one down here, argon.
AR.
AR, yes, very good. Tuqa Muhammad, aluminium. What? Al, excellent. How about sodium? How about sodium? Anyone? What?
Teacher, I
anyone?
can say.
Yes, it's Na. Yes, very good. It's Na. Very good. So here, the way to write it, like it's written in capital letter. It's very important to know this. If it's only one letter, so it's capital. If they are two letters, so the first letter capital, then the second one small. Okay. Some elements, like we said, they are common in their initial letters, and the second letter we are using it to differentiate. For example, the difference between carbon and calcium. Carbon is C and the calcium is calcium is Ca. So I have carbon is C, calcium is Ca. I can't make carbon and calcium only C. Okay, so calcium is C and calcium, carbon is C and calcium Ca. We are adding this second letter to make it easier for us to know or to differentiate between elements. Like sulfur and silicon, S and Si. Hydrogen and helium, H and He. So sometimes we are using the second letter to differentiate between the different elements.
حتى لا أحفظ capital small,
رتقة.
capital small, حروف capital small.
What capital small? The first letter capital and the second one is small. The hydrogen, it's only H, so it's capital. Okay, this is your question. If it is only one letter, so it is capital. If it's two letters, the first letter capital, the second small, like the sodium here, Na. First capital, second small. Calcium, C capital, C small, A small. Okay? The voice is lagging, that's why I don't know what are you saying. Sorry. So we have carbon is just capital C. Calcium, Ca. This is calcium. We have here hydrogen, H. We have helium, He. Okay? Sulfur, S. Silicon, Si. So this is how to differentiate between different elements by adding a second letter. Right? So, and like we said, that the symbol that sometimes is away from this law. Sometimes I'm not writing the first letter because already the symbol is derived, they come from the Latin word of this element differs from their names in English. They are using only the Latin language. Like we said, sodium is natrium, that's why it's Na. Sodium is natrium, that's why it's Na. Okay? We have here potassium. Potassium is kalium. That's why it's K. Iron is ferrum. It's Fe. Copper. Cu. Silver. Ag. Okay. Argentum. So we have them here. We have to know how can we write them. This one we have to study them because there is no law to know their symbol. So sodium is Na, natrium. Potassium, K. Iron, Fe. Copper, Cu. Silver, Ag. Have a look quickly because I'm going to ask later. Okay. So is it clear everything? Now we can start speaking about the atom from inside. Any question related to the symbols of the elements? Before we start in the construction of the atom. Anyone knows before we start what is the structure of the atom or what is the atom is consisting from? Because I know that you sometimes read the lesson before we start. Anyone know? What? Okay. So let's have a look on an atom together. Here we go. This is the atom. The atom, it looks like, when we draw it, like a small circle. There is a smaller circle inside here, but it's not obvious. This one that with the yellow color. Okay, no. Here. So any atom is consisting from two main parts. The nucleus inside this yellow circle is called nucleus. It is called Nucleus. Okay, focus. This is the basics of chemistry, and it's very important. So I have the one that is inside is what? Is the nucleus, this seal one. And there are another thing that rotates around this nucleus. Small balls are called electrons. These blue things, when they rotate around the nucleus. The nucleus inside it is consisting from two things. Protons, and neutrons. It's written here. Protons and neutrons. So mainly I have three kinds of balls inside. I have inside the nucleus protons and neutrons, and I have outside electrons. So I have inside protons and protons and neutrons. And here rotating around it, electrons. So again, any nucleus is consisting from protons and neutrons. And there are some electrons rotates around the nucleus or revolve around the nucleus at very high speed. They are moving around the nucleus at very high speed. Okay? So who can tell me now what is the structure of the nucleus of the atom? What it contains from inside? Yes,
Sure,
talk.
can you chance?
What?
100 temperatures, but
Internet is bad. Yes, I can see you. We have the nucleus of the atom from inside. It is consisting from this red part is called protons. Protons, they are positive. All the time, protons are positive. Okay. How about neutrons? Neutrons. So they are consisting from protons and neutrons. These neutrons don't have a charge, or they have neutral charge. Neutral particles, it means uncharged. They don't have a charge. So I have inside the nucleus some positive protons and some neutral neutrons, okay, or not charged. Okay, so this is inside the nucleus. Outside, I have negative electrons. These electrons are negative. Okay, so yes, Tuqa Muhammad, what are the atoms consisting from? Two main things. What are they?
Hello?
Yes.
The nucleus, the neutrons, protons, and electrons.
The nucleus and the electrons. Inside the nucleus, we have protons and neutrons. Okay. What is the charge for protons?
What, miss?
The charge of protons. Positive or negative or neutral?
Positive.
Positive. I will ask you all, don't worry. And neutrons?
Neutrons are neutral.
Yes, they are uncharged, neutral. Okay. And how about electrons?
Negative.
Negative. Very good. Thank you. Okay, Tuqa Ahmed. You know that the protons are the thing that differentiate from one atom to another. Look, if I added like 100 neutrons, it will still hydrogen. But if I add only one proton, it's helium. So that's why the protons is the thing that differentiate between one atom to another. Yes, Tuqa. So any atom is consisting from two main parts that are what?
can I say again?
I was asking that what are the two main things that any nucleus is consisting from? Any atom is consisting from?
An atom is atoms nucleus
Nucleus, very good. And Mm. It one more time. Yes. Okay, I'm going to repeat it. I think you said the answer, but I can't hear you clearly. I can't hear you. So any atom is consisting from two main parts, nucleus and electrons that rotates in very high speed around it. The nucleus from inside, they have positive protons and another bodies that are neutral. That's why we are writing negative and positive together, because they are neutral neutrons. From its name, neutral neutrons. Okay, or we can say uncharged. They don't have a charge. But the electrons, they are negative. They are negative charge. So Ammar, if I ask you, inside the nucleus, what is the charge that wins? What is the most charge that can found here and it is the strongest? Inside the nucleus. Yes. You have to fix your mic. Anyone knows what is the charge of the nucleus? If I ask what is the charge of all the nucleus together, what do you think? I have inside positive and neutral, not charged. So the nucleus will be what? Positive as well, because positive wins. Because the other one, neutrons, they are uncharged. They are neutral already. So it's positive. Nucleus is positive charged. And we have outside electrons with the same number of the negative protons here. So if I have two positive protons, I will have two negative electrons. So what is the charge for the whole atom? Tuqa Muhammad. What is the charge of the whole atom in your mind? If the number of negative equal the number of positive. So the atom will be okay, Tuqa. Yes. Big silence. So it will be neutral because already positive equals the negative, so they go together. Okay. So again, the nucleus in the center of the atom. It's found in the middle or the central core of the atom. And I have the electrons that rotates. They rotate. I can say that they rotate. They orbit, the same meaning. They revolve around the nucleus at very high speed. They are moving very quickly. About the charge, the nucleus is positive. The nucleus is positively charged. Why? Because it contains positively charged protons and electrically neutral neutrons or uncharged neutrons. Okay? But about the electrons, they are negatively charged, and their number equal the number of positive protons. That's why the atom is neutral. Okay. طيب. Let's ask about this part. If you have any question here, do you want to repeat any part here? لميس. Is it clear, Lamis? Okay. So can you tell me now what are the two main parts that the atom is consisting from? Yes, Lamis. They are the two main things. Yeah.
Electrons.
Nucleus and
Electrons.
electrons. Very good. Thank you. What is the charge of the nucleus? Tuqa Muhammad. What is the charge of the nucleus, ya Tuqa? Why all of you have the internet? Ammar. Tuqa or Ammar? Big silence. So, what was the question? I forgot the question. Anyway, yeah. What is the charge of the nucleus? What is the charge of the nucleus that at the middle? We said it contains positive protons and neutral neutrons. Positive protons and uncharged or neutral neutrons. That's why the charge of the nucleus is positive. If you don't understand any part, just ask because this is the basics and they are very important. Look, I'm repeating a lot. Okay. Let's see here. Here, if I want to write what is the symbol of the this element. So I'm going to add, for example, one proton. I already know it. It's hydrogen before even I add any other thing because the proton is the characteristic thing of the atom. So look here, it's written neutral atoms. Why? Because the number of positive protons equal the number of negative electrons. Positive and negative together, they go together, so it's a neutral. Okay, let's see another one. For example, I'm going to add one more, and I'm going to add one more electron. So it's a neutral atom. The number of positive equal the number of negative. And the neutrons are not affecting us in the charge because they are already neutral. Okay? If I ask here, what do you think most of the mass of the atom? Where can we find most of the mass of the atom? In the nucleus or the electrons? Of course, most of the mass of the atom concentrated in the nucleus because the electrons are negligible. They are very small. They are negligible or they have negligible mass relative to protons and neutrons. Protons and neutrons are heavier than electrons. Okay, if I add here, for example, let's make oxygen. So I'm going to add 8. Here we go. This is oxygen. Now this we have oxygen. It contains 8 protons, and I have to complete the electrons. So until I find here the word neutral, it means that they have the same number of protons and electrons. Finally, Tuqa. Yes, here we go. Neutral atom. Tuqa, is it clear?
Yes, miss.
Okay. So can you please quickly tell me the charge about the nucleus and the electrons?
What, miss?
What is the charge of the nucleus? Charge, positive, negative. Yes, sir.
Neutral.
What?
Neutral.
Neutral? The atom or the nucleus is neutral?
Nucleus.
The nucleus, look. This is the nucleus, okay? The nucleus contains a lot of positive charge and some neutral. They don't have a charge. So what are the charge of the nucleus? Positive, right? So we have here the charge of the nucleus is positive because it's consisting from positive protons and neutral neutrons. And here the electrons already are negative. That's why the whole atom is neutral. Why the atom is neutral? Because the number of negative electrons equal the number of positive protons. يعني negative equals the positive. That's why the atom at all is neutral. Okay? So can you say them again?
The nucleus is positive
Why?
because there are more positive protons than neutral.
Okay, because we have positive protons and electrically neutral neutrons. Okay. How about the atom? What's the charge of the atom?
Atom is neutral because the number of electrons are equal to the number of protons.
Exactly, because the number of negative electrons equals to the number of positive protons. Very good. Thank you. And Ammar, can you fix your mic? Let's do this game and see. Ouch. Okay. And this, let's make it when we take the other part. So if I ask now, what is the, or where the most of the mass of the atom concentrated, what will be the answer? Where most of the mass of the atom is concentrated? Where? In the nucleus or in the electrons? Most of the mass. Which one is heavier? We said in the nucleus. Why? Because the mass of protons and neutrons, they are more than the mass of the electrons that already are negligible. Negligible, يعني not countable, not counted. They are not counted because they are very small. They have very, very small masses. So let's have a quick revision on the part that we talk here. The nucleus, its location is in the central core of the atom. The central core of the atom, okay? Where the mass of the atom is concentrated in it. It is positively charged because it's contains positive protons and electrically neutral particles or neutrons. And this is the atom that contains positive and negative. So if we ask here why most of the mass of the atom concentrated in the nucleus, because the electrons has negligible mass relative to protons or neutrons. Okay. And why the atom is electrically neutral? Because the number of negative electrons that revolve around the nucleus equal to the number of positive protons. So inshallah, tomorrow, no. And in next session, I'm going to ask about all of this. I'm going to ask about some samples of the elements. Then, inshallah, we are going to complete it. The homework that I want you to write in a table, the name of the element and its symbol. Okay, and draw the atom. Like you are going to draw, a second. You are going to draw the nucleus and the orbit here, and then you are going to write inside it, write positive protons, and neutral neutrons, and you can write electrons. Right, this is the nucleus. This is the homework for today. Okay. Okay, I hope you understand the lesson.